Hey all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joey. I'm a singer and songwriter and also do automobile repair, history lessons, all different kinds of things. It'll blow your mind what I can do at low vision. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more awesome content channel. Now, today's video. I was bullied from 6th through 12th grade, and I'm legally blind. I'm going to tell you my experiences being blind, what it was like being bullied through those years. And things even happened outside of school, too. I will explain it all in this video. I'm going to do a part 1 and a part 2 because I don't want to keep this long. I don't want to keep you all hanging in there for a super long video. So I'm going to do a part 1 today. I'm going to finish it with a part 2 tomorrow. Well, it all started back in 6th grade. I started 6th grade. Things are going pretty good and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, because 6th grade, matter of fact, is the middle school. The middle school is 6th through 8th grade. Then the high school is 9th through 12th. Well, I started 6th grade. Everything's going well the first couple of weeks and stuff like that. Then all of a sudden, kids started saying stuff, like just saying cruel stuff. You know, what kids do sometimes. That's nothing, just verbal and stuff like that. Then, it started the one day, I was walking out of the gym. The changing room of the gym, walking like into gym to do class. And this one kid just walked up and punched me as hard as they could in the chest. Ran right up, like literally ran right up. I could hear someone running, and I could see someone running. I'm like, oh, they're going to run past me. And I sort of got something in the locker. I'm thinking, no, they ran right to me and punched me as soon as they got to me. And I'm like, whoa. It took the breath right away from me. It gave like a burning sensation and everything like that. And I said something to the teacher. I said, hey. And he's like, you're catch your breath. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm like, can I go to the nurse's office? That hurt. So then I go to the nurse's office. They told me to just go back to class. It's nothing. Things like that happen. So then, a few days later, I was at gym, standing near the bleachers, waiting for the bell to ring, and then some kid comes up and pushes me right into the bleachers. So I put my hand out to catch myself, but my finger up pinched between the bleachers. And then I went to the nurse's office. I said, hey, this is swollen. I think it's broken or something. Oh, it ain't broken. Just go back to class. Mind you, that's my second time to the nurse's office. I don't go to the nurse's office. I really don't believe in going to the nurse's office unless it was needed. And I went there, and the nurse turned me away when I really needed help. And I said, could you please call my mother? And they wouldn't. So then I ended up going home, and my mom seen my finger. She's like, what happened to your finger? And I'm like, it got broke at school. And she's like, she brought me to the doctor's. It was broken. Then I went to school the next day, and I went to nurse office with paperwork. I said, ma'am, you wouldn't let me go and call my mom or go home to the doctor's, and it was broken. See? Oh, made a mistake. And I'm like, wow. And then, one time I got punched right in the neck and stuff like that, but that hurt too. You getting hit there takes your breath away, trust me. It does. But the reason I'm telling you about these things is not because I want you all to feel sorry. I want you all to know what goes on to a lot of disabled children in American schools. It has not just happened to me. I know a lot of people who have went through this kind of stuff. And the schools don't do nothing to protect the students. A lot of the schools do stuff, but a lot of the schools do not. Depends what school district you're in. But they are laws that prevent these kind of things from happening. They are laws the school has to follow to keep the children safe. They are laws that the school knows is out there, but they don't want to do it. Now, when I was being bullied, I ended up stopped going to school. And then they threatened me to put me on pins. They threatened to take me away from my mother who adopted me. When I was a baby, I was adopted. And my mother and dad who adopted me, they broke up like a week after they adopted me. Things were rocky. Don't act right. They adopted a kid when they knew they were going to break up. But, hey, stranger things probably happened. But they broke up. And, long story short, like, I'm trying to think. What year was that? 7th grade, matter of fact, they threatened to put me on pins. 7th grade, the beginning of 7th grade. I'm like, I ain't going to go through this. I'm tired of people putting their hands on me. Tired of getting called names. Tired of being put down. Tired to go, oh, go do something to yourself and stuff like that. I ain't going to say what they said because I'm not going to say. I think you all can know. I think you all can know what was said, but it was just a certain group of people I having trouble with. Like, one time in the locker room, this was in the locker room, at the end of the 6th grade, some kid just took my bag of clothes. Because I was getting dressed, I went to go change my shirt. They took my clothes and took the shirt I just had in my hand. I'm like, hey, that's mine, give it back. And then they just threw it the first time. I'm like, okay, so I'll just go pick it up. And then, so then I do that. Then the next time that happened, the kid took it and said, what are you going to do about it? I'm like, you know what, I'm going to show him what I'm going to do about it. I really don't believe in violence. I tell everybody, don't do violence, don't do anything like that, walk away all the time. But I was so fed up with this going on every day in the school doing nothing about it. I would go to the guidance office, I go to principal, they do nothing about it. Nothing at all. So I said, no, I'm going to take care of this. I'll get my clothes back. Because a couple other kids that I went to school with and stuff, and a couple of my friends were teaching me how to defend myself because they knew what was going on. And it wasn't just happening to me, other kids were having things happen to them too. So then I'm like, going, and we got into a little altercation and stuff like that. Then I end up getting my clothes back, and then here I think it's all done. And then I get called to the principal's office, and I said to principal, I said, listen, I'll go. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I said, I'll go to the news or something. This is ridiculous. You're going to get me in trouble for defending myself. Are you serious? You're going to give me lunch detention for defending myself. I got lunch detention, you all. I got lunch detention. And then all the kids at gym class said, no, he didn't. He was defending himself. And then they pulled me out of lunch detention, and halfway through it, go ahead, you can go back to the cafeteria. I'm like, seriously? You punished me for defending myself? Like, seriously. Reminded me of that. There's a blind kid that was attacked in California, and a kid stepped in to help him in school, and the kid that stepped in to help him got suspended. This is what I'm saying. People ain't realizing what goes on. If you have a child that is disabled, you need to talk to them and see how things are going. Sometimes they won't come out right away and say it, because my school life was chaotic. Then at home, my mother was a single mother trying to raise a son and stuff like that who was legally blind. God bless her soul. I don't blame anything on my mother. She's an amazing woman. A very amazing woman for having the heart issue. She's in heart failure. Has been in it for years, and God has blessed her, and she's still here with us today. She has other health issues that I'm not going to mention, but it's hard for her to do things on her own. And she raised me, and I appreciate that a lot. She got $50 a month for child support, and that's it. That's all she had. So however she can make money, she had to. She babysat kids and made $50 a week babysitting, and then that's what she did. But you gotta think, more than one kid, that adds up money. But $50 a week, who wouldn't want their kids babysat for $50 a week? But then my mom stopped babysitting when she met a bad person. First, before she started babysitting, let me explain the whole story. Third grade, I was in third grade, my mom met this one guy. And my mom was working then. She had a job, she was trying to work and pay the bills and stuff like that. And then my mom met this one guy at the apartment building that we lived at. And he talked into moving to another place, and we moved in with him. And the man was very abusive. He used to put his hands on my mother all the time. He'd be hitting her and doing other things to her and stuff like that. And I had to see this when I was in elementary school now, as a little kid. So then, my mom ended up breaking up with him when he really messed her up good one night where she went to the hospital. And luckily I was at visitation with my father that night, so I didn't see how bad that actually got. But that's one of the things I used to have to see when I was growing up, people putting their hands on my mother. And I was too young then to do something about it. I was just a little kid. There's nothing I could have done. So then my mom meets this guy, Bob. Not my Uncle Bob, a different Bob. This guy, Bob, didn't put his hands on my mother, but I appreciate that about him. He didn't put his hands on my mother, but he took advantage of her. Took her money and everything. Took everything. So then Bob would run the roads during the day and take her car, so he'd be gone, so she'd be able to babysit. So she started to babysit. Bob would steal her car. She had an old Ford Probe, you all. He took a screwdriver to the ignition and stole the car. And then got into a hit and run with it and everything, and oh, that was a whole mess she had to deal with. And then he stole another car of hers and got in a police chase with it. And they couldn't even arrest him. My mom's like, well, arrest him. He stole my car. Like, we can't prove it was him who was driving. I'm like, are you kidding me? And then when that one car that was in the police chase came back, we got it back. That car wasn't even worth driving. The motor was blown. It was a piece of junk. The guy pushed it so hard, destroyed the engine. That was an Oldsmobile. And then, that guy, he had a drug problem. He was addicted to drugs. So my mom and I started moving around a lot because not able to pay the bills because he was taking all of her money, stealing her credit cards, stealing stuff from her. And she was afraid to tell him no because what happened with her previous relationship from the man beating her and putting his hands on her, she was afraid of it. So then she ended up giving me the car keys one day and said, listen, take these to school. He wants me to go somewhere today. I'm not doing it. Keep these keys and give them to me when you get home. And I did that, and she was so scared that something might have happened to her from her past. She didn't know how to tell her boyfriend that she gave me the keys. So then he went through the whole house and couldn't find it. And she said, maybe I left them in Joey's backpack at school. And then, he wasn't happy with that. He was not happy with that. So then he called his mother and had his mother drive my mother and him to the school. And then He gave this story that I stole the keys when I didn't, and my mom, too afraid to speak up and say anything, just didn't say a thing and let him do all the talking, and got me in school suspension, got me lunch detention for something I didn't even do. I didn't even do it, but I had lunch detention. So I said, Mom, I'm not taking, when I got home, I said, Mom, I'm not taking these keys no more. Hide them somewhere else. So then she decided to hide them in my Legos. She used to hide them in my Legos so he'd be searching the house. He never thought to look there. But I had this beautiful parking meter piggy bank, you all. It was beautiful. It was a parking meter piggy bank. And it was about 5 foot tall, and it had a plastic tube that went down and snapped together different pieces with a bottom. I've been trying to find one just like it. Video. And he didn't know that it didn't lock. He didn't know it snapped apart. He smashed it apart, her boyfriend, to steal the change out of it that I had. I'm like, wow. And then I used to go to school. I come home to my room gone through if I had any money. That I sold things because I used to make homemade stuff like crafts and stuff, and I used to sell them. Used to do lawn work on the side. Had any money, it'd be gone when I got home. So I found out storing my money at my neighbor's house or at school was safer. And I gave one teacher my money to hang on to at school, even though school was very chaotic. But there were a couple of good teachers in school. Mrs. Curran was real good. Mrs. G, Mrs. Pagorchi, oh my gosh, she was awesome. The best person I always wanted to see when I went to school each day was Mrs. G. She was so amazing. She used to walk around. I think she knew what was going on. I didn't want to burden her with the problems that was going on because I know Mrs. G would have spoken up and would have done something if I would have went to the principal office. I didn't need her to go through the same stuff that I was going through. I'm not doing anything, so Mrs. G didn't know everything that was going on. But Mrs. G, I think she kind of knew because then we used to walk to the cafeteria together. She used to sit down at the cafeteria with me and stuff like that. We all eat and stuff like that. So I think she kind of knew what was going on, but I'm not positive. But she followed me from 6th through 12th grade. Mrs. G went to the high school. When I went to high school, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. My friends and I were like, yeah, she followed us up. And I'm like, yeah, she's like awesome. She's like very good. And we did something wrong. Mrs. G would let us know. Trust me. There was one time our homeroom teacher was out. He was sick. So they had a substitute teacher. And I had my school ID card. And it was a substitute teacher. And they didn't have a key. They said they're going to have to call someone to get a key. I said, could I try and open it? Well, Mrs. G didn't know that Mr. Hoff was out that day. So she was coming in the door because Mr. Hoff's classroom is right by the one exit. And the teachers come in that way by scanning their card. Well, Miss G walks in. What are you doing trying to open the door with a card? I'm like, I'm just opening up the door for a substitute. You don't do that? And I'm like, oh, okay. So then I'm like, I learned you just let them go and get the key. I learned. Mrs. G taught me. You can do it on your own home, but don't help others to do it unless because like if it's school or something, they have to go get the key. I learned that. But Mrs. G was awesome and stuff like that. But other things went on in school. Like, they threatened to put me on pins, you all, or take me away from my parents, my mother and father who adopted me, and put me in foster care if I didn't start going to school. And it was one kid on the bus that I had a problem with too, and he got a whole bunch of kids that he knew to go and do things too. Like, literally, one time at school, listen, I'm walking down and then I got something poured on me, y'all. There have been times that I had my one shoe taken off. They took a shoe off, y'all. A shoe. Like, who would take someone's shoe off and throw it and tell them go find it? That's what was going on there. And I'm like, wow. And they wonder why I don't want to go here. And I'm like, don't get me wrong, I was a high honor student. I was in algebra and doing all that. And then, wait till you hear this. Once 9th grade hit and I went to the high school, they tried changing my education. And my mom and my dad who adopted me, they had to get an advocate and a lawyer. My mom didn't have no money for a lawyer, but my dad did. He did. I don't know why he only paid $50 a month for child support, but yeah, who cares? I think that's all he could afford because he was very scraping by too. He had nice things and stuff, but hey, he was still struggling a little. But my dad, who adopted me, was getting $50 a month for child support. Don't ask me how he got the money for a lawyer. I think he probably went in debt over it or something. But he got a lawyer to fight the school district. And come to find out, the school district's been sued a couple times already for not giving proper education to children. That same school district. And my dad found the lawyer that sued them and was working with them. Oh, was that lawyer expensive? And the school said, oh, wait. But then, they didn't tell my parents I was doing job coach. They stopped my education for so long during the mornings. I would come into school, go to my home, then I had to go all the way out to the entry of the school, wait. And they had staff that rode on the bus. They had a couple staff. And they go with each set of kids, so many kids with one staff member, to different parts, like Burger King, Hannaford, that's a grocery store, through a beverage, Chipotle's, Crackle Barrel, all that. And they'd have these kids that are supposed to be getting an education now doing work. Yes, work. They were having them do work when they were supposed to be getting an education. These kids, may I say, was not getting paid. It was free labor. Free labor. The kids are not getting anything. They wanted me to go clean the toilets of Burger King in the bathroom. I said, I ain't cleaning the toilets and bathroom. I'm supposed to be getting an education. Well, you got to do it or you're going to get written up. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So then I started doing it. I'm like, I really wasn't happy with it. Then they took my math away and went to 1 + 1, 2 + 2, 4th grade history from the other history that I was doing. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But then they straightened all that out from the advocate that my mom and dad had and stuff and the lawyer. And I got to go back into algebra. But listen, you all, they were watching cartoons in high school. That's a class they put me in, cartoons in high school, all because my vision was low. Like, seriously, I was doing good, all that. Why'd they put me there? Because they said, I'm going to be a graduating student, and I need regular life skills to survive. That was their excuse for putting me there. But I had that going on. Then a whole bunch of rumors and stuff going around that wasn't true. You know how people start rumors and stuff like that. Then one rumor was started by a teacher, you all. A teacher. I don't know if it was her husband or a family member that worked for the fire department. My mom was cleaning the microwave at the one apartment that we were living in. And my mom forgot one of them pads in the back of the microwave. And my stepsister put something in the microwave and turned it on because my mom had to go to the bathroom. She just left it in there and didn't know someone was going to go use the microwave. She wasn't done cleaning it. So my stepsister didn't know. She didn't even think to, hey, the door's open in the microwave. Maybe something's in it. No, she just put a bowl in and hit the start button. All of a sudden, we smelled smoke and stuff, heard something popping. So then first thing we did was call the fire department. It was one of them things in the microwave. Thank God it didn't burn the house down. And my mom's like, I went to the bathroom and I left that in there. I didn't think anyone was going to use it. And my stepsister goes, well, I didn't think. Who would leave that in the microwave? Well, the teacher turned around. She didn't know what went on. All she heard something was in the microwave. She went and said in front of all the kids in the one class, hey, you know what Joey did? He ended up putting something in the microwave and almost caught his house on fire. And that thing went around school. Then they had another friend of mine, and they made fun of their last name. I'm not going to say who it was, but they called it the blank mobile. Used their name, Mobile. And then they said, this is the blank mobile. Let's see if they have enough money to make it here and back or not. And I'm like, that's rude and wrong. And that one person that they did it to, well, actually two people, it was a sister and brother that was in that class they did it to. Their family was low income like mine. I'm like, that's wrong. And I said, you can't do it. Oh, we're just using that name as an example, that's all. To see if they have enough money to make it back with gas and stuff. I'm like, you can't put a student's last name on the board. That's wrong. And they did. And that one student is still scarred today from it because they even said it wasn't right. And that student didn't want to go to school due to issues going on. Which, I had someone in 2000, I don't know the year exactly, but 7th grade, the end of the 7th grade, my mom broke up with that drug addict in 6th grade. No, not 6th, 7th grade, I'm bad, she broke up with the drug addict. And then she was going through Walmart shopping. This nice guy walks up to my mom and says, ma'am, can I say hello and introduce myself? And I was with her. He's like, could you step over here for a minute? And then he's talking, but kids, they're nosy. I'm listening. He's like, what were you doing with that last guy? He was abusing you and mistreating you. I see you around all the time, and I see these guys mistreating you and stuff like that. Would you like to go on a date one of these days? And my mom said, yeah. And then they went on a date. Of course, I can't go because kids don't go on dates. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, huh. I didn't know it was a good guy back then. Like, oh, great, here's another guy going to do the same stuff that all the other guys that Mom had that made us move around and bounce place to place. Because I moved around so much, I can't even count on my two hands. I moved around that much as a kid. We move in, move out, move in, move out, move in, move out, move in, move out. Like, literally, always bouncing. Not able to have the same friends. Wonder if I'm going to keep the same friends, or how am I going to meet new people? Am I going to meet new people in that neighborhood that I can make friends with where I'm moving to? Or am I going to be yanked out of it again and have to move? That's what I was wondering. Like, when am I going to have a place I can call home? But they know what? I realized a home is not where you stay. A home is what you make it. A home can be any home that you make into home and make it feel like. But it was driving me crazy moving around as a childhood in different towns at the town in the same school district. But moving around did save me once from the kid that was on the bus, of course, and stuff. I got away from that situation. But moving around all the time made it so I couldn't make friends outside that well. Because from being bullied and everything, I distanced myself a little from people and waited till I knew they were good to hang out with or not. So I couldn't do that if they were, you know, new people that I kept meeting from moving around. But long story short, my mom broke up with that bad guy, the drug addict who was stealing her money and stealing everything from her and I. He even stole a Christmas present she all that my mom bought me for Christmas. He stole the Christmas present. So my mom's one brother and him. Because my mom met this guy through her brother that was no good. My mom has one brother that's good, one brother that's troubled. And she met this guy through her troubled brother, and they both stole my Christmas presents together. My mom had to go out and work real hard to buy new presents for me that year. But ended up breaking up, and my mom threw her brother out too to get him out of the house. And then that's when she met my stepdad a couple months later. And he's seen her and stuff like that. And then he introduced himself to me when my mom picked him up, because he asked her to pick him up from his home. And he gets in the car and he sniffs it. What's that smell? I smell gas. And mom's like, oh, that's the car. I can't afford a gas tank. The gas tank is rotted and has holes in it. We can't put a quarter tank in. We have to put a little bit below a quarter tank of gas because it has a hole in the tank and it leaks. So we have to stop at gas stations and fill up every now and then. And he's like, I'm fixing this. You ain't riding around in this. I'm like, did he just say he's going to fix this? I'm like, none of her men ever cared about it. My mom used to drive cars around with bald tires. They blow out on us all the time. We would break down, run out of gas, and stuff like that all the time because we didn't have that much money. And this man was willing to fix that car. Then, on top of that, we start driving and stuff, and he's introduced himself to me. I'm like, oh, hello, nice to meet you, which I'm being polite, but here I'm thinking he's probably just like one of the other guys. Gonna be just like the other guys and mistreat my mother. Just be saying this is all an act, probably. And then, all of a sudden, my mom pulls over, and he's, why are we stopping? She's like, we gotta let the car cool down, which I knew, because whenever we took that car anywhere, we always had to pull over it overheated, and we carried old milk jugs with water in it in the trunk to pull into the car. We had to keep pouring it into the engine, because it just came out of the car from the head that was blown. The car was still driving, though, with the blown head, but we had to keep adding water and adding water and adding water, pouring over and adding water. That's what Mom and I always did, though. We were used to it, but my stepfather wasn't. But he wasn't my stepfather back then. I just met him that thing, and we pull over, we're stopping again. And Mom goes, yeah. And he's like, this is ridiculous, this car. So then he says, know what? Here, take my van for you and your son. I'll go get another car. He went and got a pickup truck and gave my mother his van that was only a couple years old. It's the newest vehicle my mother and I ever had. The newest vehicle. We were all usually driving these ancient cars that nobody else had anymore, that was all old, beat up, rusted, or dented up, and have an issue running because they were cheap. My mom used to get $100 cars. The Probe was $150. The car that my stepfather took away from us was a $100 car. But that's what it is when you get junk cars that are for parts and you still drive them around. They ain't gonna last and treat you well. You gotta get a good running car. Cheap cars ain't always cheap they're cheap because they're junk, but sometimes you can find a good cheap car, but it's hard to. But long story short, I said to my stepdad, I'm like, that's a nice car, which he wasn't my stepdad back then, he was my mom's boyfriend. I said, hey Tom, that's a nice car, could I save it and work on it? No, it's junk. It left you and your mother on the side of the road how many times? It's going to the junkyard. You don't need something like that. From now on, your mother has me, and she's going to have something that's safe and keeps her safe. She ain't going to have something that can leave her on the side of the road and leaves her sitting there. And I'm like, wow, this is nice. He gave her a van. It was a beautiful blue minivan, not a speck of rust. It was beautiful, y'all. Beautiful. The mirrors had directionals on. It was fancy. It even had a CD player. My mom's and I were always used to cassette players and stuff like that in the 2000s because the cars were so old that we were using. Like, wow, this has a CD player. And it was pretty cool. And it was way more updated than the stuff that we had. I'm like, wow, this is cool. So then he gets a pickup truck, my stepfather. And then they're getting closer and stuff like that. And he starts spending nights at my mom's house. And then all of a sudden we get a place. And I never had to move again since that man met my mom. We moved twice with my stepfather, and that's it. We moved once into a 2-family house, and my stepfather said, this is going to be a temporary home till we can find a house for us all. And then we moved into a house. And it was so awesome. I never thought my mom and I would ever live in a house. A real house. We always had apartments. Like, it was a house. It was a 2-story house with 4 bedrooms on the second floor, 1 bedroom on the first floor, a full attic on top, and a basement with a garage. And it was beautiful. It costed a lot, but well, my stepfather was a contractor. That's how he was able to pay it all. That man worked very hard each day. He was always gone at work, but then he had an accident that happened to him. And the hospital did something, and he ended up getting real sick, and then he passed away. He wanted to go home to pass away, so he was on hospice. So he passed away at our home. But then my mom couldn't afford to keep the house, which was sad, but we ended up losing the house, and we had to move, so we moved into not good area. It was like the projects of the one town that the school was in. The school district was the same name as the town. And we moved into these projects that were just named Greenbush. That was the name of the projects. And it had stuff going on there and stuff like that. And oh boy, I didn't know that some of those kids lived near there that I had trouble with when I was a kid. Because my stepfather's the one who got me to graduate school. He got me to graduate. I wanted to drop out. Once I hit the legal age, I wanted to drop out because being physical and non-physical stuff going on to me in school. Things going on all the time, physical and non-physical. I just was done with it. Why put yourself through abuse? Why go through it? I said, I just want to drop out. I want to go for my GED. And he said, son, you're not going to drop out. You're going to graduate. Ignore that. And like I said, my kids go to school there. You just go and get one of them if you ever need a thing. And he went into that principal office more than once to take care of issues. But there's some things I won't say that went on because I don't want to say some things that went on. But I'm not going to say some things that went on in school because I don't know who's watching this. I get their kids and stuff watching this. I don't want to say some things that went on. So I'll keep that to myself. But long story short, it was chaotic there. And matter of fact, the school I went to hit the news in 2004. Thank God I was in elementary school then. I was in elementary school. Thank God I was not in the high school. The high school hit the national news all across the U.S. for something very bad that happened there. And people try saying this is such a great school district. It might be a good school district for children that don't have disabilities. But if you have a disability, the school tries to act like it's nothing they can do. There's nothing when they can. And my experience, this is my own opinion, I don't think it's a good school district. Everybody has a right to their own opinion. For some people, they might think it is. But a lot of my friends and I, we suffer from night terrors, from the trauma we went through in our past. Things we had to see and things that happened to us ourselves. Night terrors is a way of your body coping with experiences that you had in your past of trauma. Now, I've been working on that real good. I don't even get those night terrors that much anymore. The only time I'll get them if I'm really stressed out about something, like I've been trying to get a job lately. So I've been stressed out, like, how am I going to pay bills? How am I going to keep this going? I had a beautiful job until COVID hit, and then the place closed, and I can't find a single person to hire me with a vision impairment. Everywhere I go, oh, you're legally blind. You're a liability. We can't take you. I'm like, are you serious? And people say sue. No, suing is not right. Now, if a child is being mistreated by a school or something, and the school's not stepping up to protect that child, then you sue and give that money to that child for college. You don't sue a business because they won't hire you. That's just my opinion. But one of these days I'll get a job. The good Lord will bless me. But hey, my music career, that's what I got. I'm supposed to go to New York City soon. But I talked to my music producer. He said, just go to the hospital first. Your health is more important than the music career. This can wait. Because I went to the eye doctor Friday. Not this past Friday, Friday before. And then this past Wednesday, I went to another eye doctor that they sent me to. And this eye doctor Wednesday said, this is too beyond my skill to do. You need to go to the Boston Eye Center, and you need to go to the emergency room. They will see you immediately, and they will get you right in. And I'm like, why? And he's like, well, your retina is torn, and it's a big hole in it, and it's bleeding a little, and you need to get it fixed. And I'm like, will it bring back any of the vision that I lost? I don't know that, he goes, but he said, you gotta get it addressed. And I'm like, if I go there, how am I going to pay for the hotel and everything like that? That's what I got to look into. And I'm like, my health care don't cover everything. Hey, they don't even cover my glasses. I had to pay for my own glasses because it's just ridiculous. They say they got health care for people, but it don't cover half the stuff you need. But I am working on doing that because he said to me and my music producer, worry about that before we do your first album. I'm going to have my first real album coming out soon. And that music producer is going to help me, like a real one that's going to be on CDs and stuff. And he's going to have me explain some of my things I went through in my life and why I went to music. Because music is like therapy. You can put how you feel down in words. And you can put it on, well, you can't put it on paper for me because I can't see. I write it digitally. I will speak into my phone and send a text to myself. And that's how I speak it. And that's how I write a song. And I'll write the lyrics down to myself. And then I'll forward the text to my music producer. That's how I do it. But it's something that I put in my head, like a new song I just made because all the things going on. I'm like, yeah, everything's going good. I'm going to be going to New York City. I'm going to be getting everything good. Then, boom. Go to the eye doctor for a yearly checkup. Oh, sir, your retina's torn. You're going to have to go see this doctor. I'm not even going to give you a prescription for glasses. I'm like, damn, this sucks. I was all psyched to go to New York City and lift myself out of poverty with my music career and stuff, and life threw something at me. But that's life. Life always throws stuff at us. That's the journey called life. We never know what's around the next bend or up the next hill. The most important thing, we got to stay strong and believe in ourselves and know we can overcome anything that comes our way. So I'm going to get my eyes taken care of first. But wait, this might be a positive thing because you know why? This might be a positive thing. Because doing this will give me more time to make a better album. Instead of rushing to make songs, I can make the best songs I can make while waiting for my eye to heal. So it can be a plus and it's a minus at the same time. But now back to the experiences that I went through. From being bullied through school, one time in middle school, I got off the bus walking into the school, and the kid walks up, hey, why don't you check your window when you get home? I'm like, what? Yeah, it's lucky it was locked. I'm like, what? So then I go home that day, I'm like, what are they talking about? I go check the one, nothing's wrong. But I open up, I open up the other one. Ooh! The screen was cut. I'm like, ooh, that ain't good. That's not good. So then I noticed that. And then I'm like, damn, this sucks. And I go show my mom, like, Mom? I didn't want my mom to worry. My mom had enough going on with the boyfriends at the time and stuff that was going on. So I didn't want my mom to see what was going on. So I just say, Mom, something's wrong with my screen. And I was like, oh, it must have got bumped or something. They was always going to trouble her with some of the stuff going on because she was in abusive relationships and she had enough on her plate. But then I'm like, okay, now I'll just make sure I keep the windows locked. But, oh man, was I a little bit nervous going outside of my house? Yes, because what I was told would happen if I was found outside of school. If I was found. And my mom used to babysit a kid. Like kids, like I said, and these kids literally says, oh, what about that blank kid that your mom watches? I'm like, wow, these people are so ridiculous, they're putting a kid down. This is ridiculous, and saying stuff about that. And I'm like, wow, these kids are horrible. But then, like one time they said something, I said, go ahead, I don't care about that person. Like, I said it as a remark, I did care, I don't want nothing to happen to someone. They said something about my mom's boyfriend. Oh, he always walks down the road and stuff like that. I'm like, well, you're getting in trouble, then you'll be off my hair. So, like, some of the stuff that we said was ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. And the school did nothing at all about it. Nothing. What, just had a talk with the kids once? That's it? That made things worse. And then they never did anything after that. And it was ridiculous. But then, let me tell you about when my stepfather died. My stepfather passed away the same year I graduated high school. So he got to see me graduate. He couldn't go to my graduation because he was home with hospice. And he wasn't even supposed to get off the bed, you all. That man was so happy I graduated. I come home, like, I wasn't happy I graduated. I'm happy I'm out of school. Like, yeah, I'm gone. This is all going to be done. This is in the past. Yeah, I don't have to go to school no more. I'm all happy. Yeah, I'm glad I graduated too. I was more happy I was out of that place because it was so hard. And then my stepdad meets you at the door. He's in tears. Like, what's wrong? You graduated. My boy graduated. And I'm like, wow. He loved me that much. He cared about me. So then he bought a truck for him and I to redo. Because they said it was a chance he could come out of it. But he ended up not. From what happened at the hospital, he ended up passing away. And it's sad because he was the best man my mom ever had. Treated my mom like a queen. Treated me like his own son. Treated me like a man should treat a kid, not call them names, not run after them and chase them. Some of my mom's boyfriends would run after me too and stuff like that. And this man never did that to me. He never called me names. He never put a finger on me. And I'm like, wow, this guy is amazing. And when he passed, I took it hard. I'll be honest, I took that hard. But then my mom and I moved to the projects, and if things couldn't get worse, they did. I love walking around. I still walk around, matter of fact, today. I was walking around and stuff like that. All of a sudden, I get chased by a whole bunch of kids. Like, oh, well, they ain't kids because some of them graduated, some of them didn't, but some were still in school. But I'm like, here, oh, there he is. I'm like, oh, great, not this again. So then I run and get away, and I'm like, okay. Then the next time they did a setup, the one kid had a family member in the police department, and it was a setup. And I had witnesses, neighbors that walked up to the police officer and said, sir, listen, these kids are chasing him. He did nothing wrong. Step out of it or I'll arrest you for interfering. And he said, I'm arresting you for trespassing. You don't live here. I said, yes, I do, sir. It's right on my ID that I carry. Check it. I don't need to. You don't live here. Let's go. Put me in handcuffs, slam me into the patrol car, put me in the backseat. I have bruises on me from the cop and stuff like that. And another officer showed up because people in the complex were calling police saying, like, they said what was going on. It wasn't right. Because I wasn't even resisting or anything. This cop, like, first slammed me to the ground, then slammed me into the patrol car and stuff. And then, this ain't the first time that this is the first time. And then he brings me to my mother's, and the other cop said, show him right where you live then. And he said, you gotta let him show you right where he lives. And the cop goes, oh, we made a mistake, and he left. Then another time, I'm being chased by the same kids, and all of a sudden, there's no cop cars around. I can have neighbors vouch for this that lived in the complex. That they were a lot of good neighbors there too. So I started taking off running, and all of a sudden I get tackled to the ground. And I get told you're under arrest. I'm like, for what? Trespass? I'm like, you're not going to try this again, are you? I know other people that try to do stuff too, like call the police. They didn't do nothing. They were useless. I should have been smarter and called the state police about what was going on, or sheriffs back then. But that's many years ago. Can't do nothing about it now. Then, after that, one day I was working on the van on my mom's. Well, not my mom's. I bought one just like it. It was a parts van. But my mom ended up getting rid of her van because her troubled brother disabled the van from running. My mom wouldn't listen to me. I told her I could fix her husband's van. But my mom's brother knew it had 4 calic. It was either 3 or 4 calic converters on it. So he ended up cutting them off and scrapping it and taking the car away because he had a drug habit. My mom's one brother. He started poking around and like getting food, right? And we had food, having us give him food and stuff. He didn't live with us there, but he was taking stuff. And then he disabled the van from running one night. And I said, Mom, it's something's undone. I can fix it. Nope. She gave it to her brother to junk. She said I had a van, but she didn't understand the van that I bought was a parts van to fix her van, to give us new tires, to give us a new power steering pump because we couldn't afford a power steering pump. And the van I had a blown head gasket. I'm like, great, we're going to go back to a never overheating car thanks to my uncle. So I was working on my minivan. It was a red minivan. And my neighbor, I'm going to tell you how the building looked. They were long buildings with different doors that went to different parts of the building. There were 4 sets of doors for the apartment building that I lived at. And they were a hallway that each door went to. And on the first floor in front of the stairs would be apartment to the left and apartment to the right. Then you go up the flight of stairs and there'd be 2 apartments on the left and 2 on the right because they were townhouses, 2 and 3, like it was a second and third floor townhouses were. And to get into your townhouse, you had to go on the second floor. Well, a friend of mine's father lived in one of the townhouses that was above the flats. And he was out on his balcony and stuff like that. I don't think the kids noticed that. All of a sudden, I'm trying to get this van, like, do engine sealing and stuff and trying to fix stuff so it don't overheat my mom. And all of a sudden, I'm underneath the hood working on it. And all of a sudden, I hear my friend's father say, Joe, listen to me. Step back very slowly and walk towards me. I'm like, what did I... Just don't act, walk. I'm like, what did I do wrong? I'm like, I didn't do a thing wrong. I'm like, damn, this sucks. Then he said, Joe, go into the glass door and come up to my apartment now. And then as I go on, I hear him screaming and yelling on stuff. I'm like, ooh, he went and got his rifle, y'all. Because he hunted and stuff. He went and got his hunting rifle and was telling these kids off to leave me alone and stuff like that. And he said, seeing that the police ain't going to do something, he'll do something if they don't stop. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, thank you, but I'm like, I don't want you to get in trouble for having that. And he's like, I won't. And I'm like, wow. And he stood up for me real well. They said, "No, what, Joe? They're gone now. Go ahead and go back in." But I wouldn't go outside by that car right now. I work on it another day. So then I go in and stuff like that. I'm like, whoa, that was close. And then one time, I was bringing the garbage out for my mom at the apartment complex, and the dumpsters are behind all the buildings and stuff like that. So I walked back and threw the bag in, and I started to walk back, and it was a second set of bags I brought up because I already brought the first set out, and I walked back and I walked out with a second set. And then I walked to the dumpster, throw it in, and go to turn around and walk back, and I hear, "We got your doors." I said, "What? We got your doors covered." I'm like, "What does that mean?" I'm like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "Oh, it must be maintenance. They must be doing something." So then I start walking. I'm like, "Wait a minute." I can only see straight ahead, like this. And like that, like two paper towers at that time. So I'm like, then I hear someone coming up on the side and someone coming up on the other side. Uh-oh. And then a car flew up towards me, like, oh no. I'm like, this ain't good. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to really think fast to get myself out of this situation. So then I said, screw it, I'll just take a chance. And I ran for it. I ran, even though I shouldn't be running, being legally blind. I always had to run away from a lot of things, from those kids and stuff like that, a certain group. I ran. And I ran good that time because well, the scariest part, right when that one car door opened right up, right when I ran past, like, ooh, that was close. And I got away from it, which a while back in school, certain kids asked me a question and said stuff to me, well, if you do this, you could make good money and stuff like that. I'm like, no, I'm not doing anything illegal, but once you do it, we all take care of you. We all look after each other once you join something like this. I said, no, I'm not. And because I wouldn't join it, I think that's why I was being targeted all that time and stuff like that. Which, one time, at one place I lived, it was near a lake, and it was right when my stepfather and mom were together, and they were married then. I was walking with my stepfather's one grandchild, and we were walking around the lake, and all of a sudden I said to him, I said, let's walk back and turn around. He said, why? I said, and he's like, yeah, someone's fighting. I said, that's people that have been having problems. Let's get away from there. I don't know what they were doing. I just walked away and just mind my own business. Didn't need to pay attention to it because I knew not to step in because of my eyes. And I knew if I called the police, nobody would do anything. So my stepfather's grandson we stopped at my one friend's house that lived on the way home. I said to their parents and stuff, hey, you need to go over there and check on something that's going on. And then he explained what's going on, and I explained too, and they went over to look at it. I don't know what happened from there, but I knew not to step in because there's too many of them against one person. But my other friend, who I went to school with, was riding his bicycle. He had a small disability, and he woke up in the hospital because he got attacked in that town. That's how bad this town was with bullying and these kids. They were cruel and mean. And it wasn't right. As a matter of fact, my one friend, my ex of all people, my ex-girlfriend, she was shopping around Walmart in the town because it's the closest store. My ex used to live in the same town that I do now because she took over my old apartment. I gave it to her. And then I got, like, it was strange. We rented 2 motel rooms. They were 2 studio apartments. We rented 2 to have a living room and a bedroom. They were both ran down apartments, no heat, no hot water, but at the time, it was all I could afford. So we used the oven and electric heaters to heat the home in the winter. And we used her mother's house for hot water because I've been struggling with cash flow at that time. Well, when my ex and I were dating and stuff like that, we ended up breaking off. We broke off on good terms and stuff like that. And we still talk today, but she went to Walmart shopping. And a group of people started with her, and I'm like, ooh. Then they started saying things about her and stuff like that. And like, wow. That town, I think, still has it going on. I'm sorry. But I think stuff's still going on there because I met a lady at Hannaford in that town when I was doing cans and bottles. And she was talking and stuff like that. Then her daughter said something. And she said, yeah, well, you were up again yelling. I said, may I ask you a question? I don't mean to butt in. You're waiting to do cans and bottles. But what was your daughter doing? She said she was yelling no and stop and stuff like that. I'm like, and my mom said, that's what he does. And that girl was going to the same school that I went to, but she was still going there. I'm like, stuff's still going on there. I'm like, wow. This is sad. Which, the school was calling CPS on my mom for me having dirty hands when I went to Votech because my stepfather made it so I could go to Votech instead of job coach. He said, if you ain't got no classes for him at that time, send him to Votech or something. So they sent me to automotive school. And then the one teacher said, Joey, why do you want to do automotive school at the regular school if you're blind? I said, because I already know stuff about cars that will help better my skills. And then, you know how working on cars, your hands can get greasy. Well, me having bad eyes, I feel what I'm working on with the car. I need my hands so I can't wear the glove. So my hands are a little bit stained and greasy. They called CPS on my mom for child abuse for me having greasy hands. CPS worker said, Joe, let me see your hands. Are they stained or dirty? Then she went to the Voltec place, and the teacher said, his hands are going to be stained. So you know what the Voltec teacher did to stop all this from going on? Joe, here, I'm going to buy medical gloves. See if this works, if you can feel it works. This way your mom don't have CPS on her. And we don't have them coming here for child abuse either because it's ridiculous. The CPS should have been looking into all the bullying and stuff going on at the school instead of what's going on to kids otherwise. But they didn't. And I said that to her. And she was like, well, we're not here for that. We're here for your hands. I'm like, wow. So then the medical gloves did work, so I could feel to work in the cars. They just ripped a lot, and the Votech teacher said, that's all right, Joe, I'll take it out of my pocket, and I'll pay for it myself. This way your mom don't have to worry about them people knocking on her door all the time. And he was very nice. He said I wasn't his first blind student he had, and another blind student went into a garage. Now, I would love to work on cars, but I can't. From injuries that happened to me in school, I cannot work on cars. My ribs got broken on this side. One is on top of each other. It never healed right. The doctor wanted to rib plate them, but I read it's a risk of rib plating. So I'd rather leave it like that, the one rib over the other how it healed, than fix it. Yeah, it's painful. Then I have another condition I suffer from the things I went through in school and stuff like that. My chest wall swells up, like if it's warm out and humid and stuff, and it's severe pain. And somehow the problems with my body keeps throwing costochondritis at me. And like the internet says, there are cures. I try everything. It's supposed to go away, but the doctor said what will happen to me, it won't go away because of the injuries that I have. And one time a kid cut right, well, I can't show. If you see below my hand, if you see a little scar right there, right where my wrist meets my hand, my wrist got cut. It wasn't a big one, but someone did a little cut right across it. And I went to urgent care for that, but they never did anything. They said it's fine, it's just a little scrape, go home. Kind of find out years later, I got that look into tendons and stuff got damaged in there. So when you touch, if I touch a certain spot, I'm not going to touch it. It's like sharp pain. It hurts to touch. And I don't think it's nothing they can do for it now. But why I'm telling you my story of being bullied and stuff like that and what I went through is because other children go through this on a daily basis all across schools. And we need to make more laws. They are laws that are supposed to protect them, but we need to make more things to prevent these kind of things from happening. And me starting out in a music career and stuff like that, I hope I can use my voice to make new laws. Use my voice for those who are afraid to use their voice, who are afraid to speak up because it will make things worse on them, because I spoke up and told the principal and stuff, and I told other people. My mom used to call the school, used to call the bus garage, and nothing ever happened. When she called, they confronted the kids, and it made things worse and worse and worse and worse. But you gotta tell someone every time. I looked up, I could have sued the school back then, I didn't know that. Everything needed to be documented, and you can get a lawyer and sue if that's going on to your child that has a disability. Even children that are not disabled, it happens to. Trust me, it can happen to anybody, bullying. And it's not right. It's not right to bully, and it's not right to watch it go on. Anyone sees it going on, they should go and tell trusted adults immediately if they are children themselves. What is a golden rule? Kindness is earned. Respect is earned. To be respect, you have to earn it. So you have to treat others the way you want to be treated. And that's the golden rule. Don't ask why some people are cruel and don't do that, but it's sad. But one time I gotta say before I end this first one, my cousin Walter came to help my mom and I with my stepfather's van because my mom needed a light bulb. I told her just a light bulb, and she didn't believe me because she thought it was something major at the van. She brought it to a friend of hers that butchered the wiring harness. And it was at the complex after being chased and after the things going on with the kids and stuff like that. Like, I didn't tell my mom everything that was going on at that complex. I kept some stuff just to the neighbors and stuff that knew that I was close with. And my cousin Walter comes out at nighttime of all things, and he goes outside. I'm like, hey Joe, can you come out and hold a flashlight? I'm like, deep down, I'm like, I don't want to go out at night. I can't see in the dark. I'm like, I'm not going out at night. I'm saying in my head, I'm like, no, do I have to? I'm said, just come on out. I need your help. Just hold the light. It ain't that hard. I'm like, I really don't want to be out here at night. So I'm like looking around whenever I heard a sound, like moving my head, even though I can't see in the dark. I'm like, ooh, what was that sound? Because I'm like nervous. I'm like, because I knew some of those kids that lived there. I'm like, I don't need nothing to happen to my cousin and I. And then I'm like sitting there, my heart's like in my hand. I'm like nervous as anything at night out there. And all of a sudden my cousin gets the lights working. It works. Like, oh, thank you, Walt. And he's like, you're welcome. And I'm like, well, thank you again. Now, and I'm like, and he ended up leaving. I went inside and stuff like that. And that was a scary time sitting out there in the dark, knowing that I was an easy target because I couldn't see to run away or anything like that. And how many kids they usually had in that group of friends that they all hung out with. They weren't my friends. It was a group of friends, I guess, or whatever you want to call those kind of people when they all hang out together. But I was like, if they come, my cousin and I are up a creek without a paddle. There are more of them than us. And my uncle and I were walking one day. My uncle has a drug problem. He taught me a few things in life, but not much at all. But he taught me how to ride a bicycle without training wheels. I crashed and burned a couple times riding a bike being legally blind, but hey, you gotta do something, don't you? So I ended up doing that and everything like that. And my uncle and I were walking up to these trails and stuff to go collect cans and bottles from the woods, and we were being followed by an SUV. My uncle said, no, I ain't gonna deal with this. You stay here. He walks right up to the SUV. I said, no, Uncle Bob, don't, no, Uncle Bob. Because I knew something could happen to him. Because he did do a lot of things with me. He used to do towing for me for scrapping. And I'd have to pay him, of course. But we used to do all different kinds of things. He taught me how to ride bicycle, how to use tools right when I was a kid, and stuff like that. But he walked up and said, listen, what the blank is going on here? Why are you following my nephew and I? If you got a problem, I'm like, Uncle Bob, don't do that. Uncle Bob, don't do that. And he's like, little buddy, it's fine. I got it. And he's like, if you got a problem, why don't you step out of this vehicle and I'll show you? And I'm like, Uncle Bob, please don't do that. Please don't do that. And Uncle Bob's like, if you keep following, I'm going to do something about it. Then we start walking and they start following. Uncle Bob, no, I had it with this. And I said, Uncle Bob, please, just listen to me. Let's go in the woods. They can't drive their car in the woods. Well, if they follow us, they're going to follow us in the woods. I'm going to take care of this little buddy. Like, Uncle Bob, there are 5 of them and only 2 of us. And long story short, they didn't follow us into the woods, thank God. But my stepfather's grandson and I were going through the woods one day, and these dirt bikes came up at us. And I'm like, uh-oh. And they were following us, like, and I said to him, I said, listen, this is going to be steep, but we're going to have to do it. We're going to have to go down this steep hill because they can't go down. They're going to have to follow the trailhead and go way, way down, right where it's a path that goes down there. But as they're doing that, we could climb back up this steep hill and get away. So we slid down. The dirt bikes flew to go catch up with us, and we made it look like we were walking that way. I said, make it look like you're going that way to get out. And that's what we did. And I said, all right, now turn around. Let's go up this hill before they come down this way. So then we got up and we ran out of there because I loved hiking and stuff like that, and I didn't let it stop me. You know, I was in a rough area. The town I grew up in had a lot of abandoned cars all over the woods, stuff that you could check out, cool abandoned cars all over the place and stuff like that. They were like over 4,000 to 5,000 cars in one spot, all scattered all over the woods. Like it's a certain spot of woods with fields and woods all over the place, and it's full of cars. And some of them were only a couple years old. I always wonder how the cars got there. And then there were cars in the woods behind other places and stuff like that. It's like, wow, this town loves dumping cars in woods with license plates and everything on them. But, yeah. So then we got away from that, and like, you know what? I'm never going this far again. I'm going to stay, when I go in the woods, I'm going to stay closer to civilization. But I moved out of that town, like, literally, when my mom and I became homeless in 2015, because somebody called code, a family member that didn't get their way, they called code on us in November. It was November of 2014 through 2015 winter, my mom and I were homeless. We moved out of that town. We moved to another town near there, and it was nice, but the place got shut down by code and stuff like that, and the fire chief, and like, damn, this sucks. So then, long story short, we bounced around place to place. So then we stayed with my one friend's house at their house until we got a place and we moved up to a small town with a mile and a half driveway off the road about. And it was a beautiful place, but unfortunately, I think we were followed home one night and didn't know it because it started one day. My mom and I are talking and stuff like that. We came home late and stuff like that from shopping and everything like that. And we get a knock at the door real late. We were getting ready to go to bed. We were turning all the lights off. I was going to my room. All of a sudden, she said, Joe, that refund, because it's Christmas time. She said that reef on the door is moving side to side, and it ain't just moving side to side from the wind. The whole reef holder is moving. I said, somebody's doing that. And then we called the police. It took them an hour and a half to get out because it's such a small town. Didn't have no police or anything. Like, ooh, this ain't good. How long it takes them. Then another time, I was supposed to go to my girlfriend's house. My mom was going to drop me off and everything. And my girlfriend got mad at me because I didn't spend a night with her that night. Which she should have understood why. Because she was like, well, your mother's car's running out. I said, I am not leaving my mother in that house alone with what just happened to her car. We go out to go start the car. My mom's like, the battery's dead. I'm like, how did a battery die? Pop the hood. Battery has spark. Battery ain't dead. So I said, that could be a dead starter. So I go down and tap on the starter. No wires are to the starter. The wires are disconnected and tucked up underneath the hood. Because we didn't lock our cars there. Somebody disconnected the wires to the starter. Then my ex-girlfriend wanted me, of all, to go and spend the night with her and leave my mother there by herself. Me, as a good son, knowing that mother raised me when she adopted me and is my mother because she adopted me and took me in and raised me, I wasn't going to leave her up there that night. Nothing happened, but long story short, that was a scary experience. But after I moved out of that place, I heard from a person at the Family Dollar near there that house was trashed. And I'm like, someone must have went in it and trashed it. Because one time, my mom and I were gone, and we came back, and somebody made the beds. And I had a BB gun that my stepfather gave me. It meant the world to me. I really don't believe in guns, and my stepdad didn't know that. He bought it for me. And he's like, well, Joe, you can hang on your wall as a decoration, and you don't have to use it. Because I don't believe in those things being blind, because you can hurt yourself with one of those things. So then I had it just sitting there as remembrance of him and stuff like that. It was one of the few things that I had left from being homeless. We put everything that we owned at a friend's house and my mom's, and they sold everything at a garage sale, so we didn't have much. So then, that was one of the only things I had, and they tore the BB gun apart. And I mean tore it apart. The boot of the gun was busted off, the barrel was snapped, and the whole thing was ripped apart and left on my bed. I'm like, this is sad. Somebody broke the thing. So then, long story short, after all that, that's why I think we were falling from that town I grew up in, because we used to always go shopping there, and I think those are the people that trashed that house after we left. I feel bad for the guy who owns the house, because we left that house mint when we left. And someone trashed it and stole a whole bunch of stuff from him out of his tool shed and everything. I heard that his mower was missing and everything. Like, wow. Because when I left there, I moved into a studio apartment, so I didn't have room to take anything. I mean, I really didn't have much for anything. So I'm like, wow, someone robbed that place. I'm like, good thing we did move out, but not good thing that it happened to that guy. He was a nice landlord. Granted, he didn't fix much, and when the hot water tank was acting up in the furnace, all he did was wedge a piece of wood against the breaker and said, here, it's fixed, don't move that piece of wood, and you got power to it. Because that was kind of dangerous looking back at it, but hey, rent was cheap at $600 a month for a whole house. But I'm going to do a part 2 to this soon and explain more things that I went through in school, but I wanted to give a whole brief of things that I went through in my life and stuff like that on part 1. But I hope you all enjoy my content that I create all the time, and I appreciate to everybody who is subscribed to me, and I also appreciate everybody who watches my video and takes your time out. You don't know how much it means, because you guys watching my videos and stuff like that means so much to me. I'm so honored to have people like you watch my videos. I'm so honored to have people like you who are subscribed to me, and it means so much to me. Until the next video, you all have a blessed and safe day. God bless. And be safe out there. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet to see more awesome content from this channel. Peace. Video. Stop recording.